Right, here we're going to talk about how to improve your close rate for your HVAC or home service business in home estimates. And I kind of give you a background of, my experience and my expertise on this is I run a marketing agency for HVAC and electrical contractors. And what I did, in this past year is I actually visited my clients in California and New Jersey. And, I have clients who close from, at least 20-30% of the appointments that we set for them to clients who actually close 60% of the online leads that we set appointments for. And I'm like, what is really allowing some business owners and sales reps to close 60% of all the online leads? It's almost unheard of. And we tracked all this data as well. And what I did was actually visit the business owners, went to estimates with them and comfort advisors, and I asked the customers if I can record these in-home estimates for training purposes, and I was able to compile all that data and see for myself on how home service business owners can improve their close rate for in-home estimates, and there's a dramatic difference, and I hope this gives you perspective on what you're doing, because I know a lot of business owners think that maybe what they're doing is right, or maybe what they're doing is wrong, or maybe you don't know at all. And so here is what I've seen that will help you improve your in-home close rate for your home service business. So all the business owners that I've ever worked with that have the most success in my program, and just most success in general, is that they do the price presentation very well. So after you establish that trust with the business owner, explain everything about their home, what's going on, you've gone over the equipment, what you're putting into their home, their solution, you go through the problem, go through the solution, and now you kind of need to dive deep into the price presentation and assume the close. There's a couple things that the top sales reps that I always see is they always present the price at the home when they're there. And, what usually happens is the home advisor, the sales reps, hey, you kind of, first thing they do usually is they go over, hey, this is the equipment that we're putting in. It's highly rated on Consumer Reports. These are Google reviews. These are rep reviews. This is us as a company. Now let's break down what are the costs in fixing this or putting this in your home, right? So what usually happens is obviously you have either an iPad or you have a paper estimate where the contractor usually writes up the estimate in person and breaks down everything, right? Why is this so important? Because there's some contractors that I've worked with where they go over everything in the home, but this is the first time a homeowner is getting anything like this done. They have no idea what's going on. The next day you send them a text or email, they're picking up their kids, they have 2-3 other people come to their home the day before. They now look at the text message that you send with all these prices, all this equipment. It goes way over their heads. They don't remember anything that you talked about yesterday. Then you lose the sale because it's not because your sales skills aren't there. It's because the customer doesn't understand. They don't remember what you did at their home. So you might as well have not went to the home in the first place. You just you could have talked to them on the phone and sent them a price, right? So if you're already there in a home estimate, present the pricing to them, the equipment, break down what it looks like, right? Hey, if you're an HVAC, this is price of doing your ductwork, right? This is the ductwork. This is the price of your condenser, your coil. These are your pricing options for equipment, right? For single stage, variable speed. These are your options for brands, right? These are your financing options, right? Do you want to pay in cash? Do you want 0% financing, right? Go over the options that they have in getting this done, right? And essentially, assume the close, because you want to see what objections they have and not objections, questions. What questions do they have about, working with you? So you can answer them right then and there. So a lot of times, you're going to send the estimate after you get home, and they look at it, doesn't cross their mind, they have some questions, but they forgot about the questions, you aren't able to answer them, and who knows what happens when you send the estimate after you leave the home, right? So during the price presentation, not only explain the equipment that you're putting in, explain the financing and payment options. I know sometimes when you first get financing, you don't really understand too much on how those things work, but take the time, depending on your financing provider, understand what the financials look like for the customer, because if you don't understand it, how is your customer going to understand it, right? So take the time to, some financing providers provide training. Understand what are the payment and financing options that are available for the customer, because the more you have an understanding, the more they trust you, because after all, you need to understand what you're giving your customer and what they're using to pay for what you're doing for them. You need to understand it. And then, observe their reactions and questions, and answer anything that you have right then and there, so that you actually have an understanding when you leave the home where the customer is at in terms of, do they even want to buy it? How they would want to even pay for it? What questions do they have? What stage are they at in decision making? Maybe they need to wait for another home renovation, something like that. So all the top contractors I've ever worked with always do a price presentation. So the next important thing is, we're explaining to the customer a lot of technical concepts when we go into their home, right? Even if you sell, roofs, windows, where some things are very kind of self-explanatory, there's a hole in your roof or something, you bring them up there, they see it, they see the damage or whatever. But sometimes, for example, on HVAC, you look at what's going on, it's just going to go way over their head, right? And so you might be a business owner coming from a technical background, so it's very easy for you to explain from your standpoint. But the best sales rep and business owners I've ever seen explain, when explaining in the technical concepts, is explain with analogies, right? So customer asks, why can't I just replace just my condenser and coil and I'll replace my furnace, right? You can obviously, go dive deep into the technicals, or you can say something like, hey, obviously, from my understanding, furnace directs a lot of airflow, right? If the furnace isn't compatible with the rest of the unit, it's not going to work, right? But to convey that in a way that customers understand is, think of an old person and a baby, right? Would you really put them in a room together, right? In a room together, they can't really communicate. An old person and a baby can't really communicate, right? What's going on with your unit is, we put in a new system with an old unit. They're not going to be able to communicate, and your air conditioning system in your home is not going to run smoothly, right? The same way a newborn and a old person can't really communicate, right? And that usually drives the point across, right? Of course, there's other ways to explain this as well, but most of the times, you're going to be surprised. Your customers need analogies to understand the technical concepts you're trying to explain, right? Right. Another thing is, customers are like, why, my unit runs fine. Why do I need to replace, an old unit? One of the comfort advisors that I still remember to this day, he explained it. If I think he's like 50 something years old. He's like, if when I was younger, 24 years old, I can, if you told me to run down the street, I'd sprint down there like Forrest Gump. You tell me to do that now, 54 years old, you're going to have to call an ambulance, right? So your unit is now 20 years old. It's not going to be running it as efficiently as it was when it was younger, right? And now if you want to lower your electrical bill and improve your efficiency in cooling and heating your home, it's better that we get this old unit replaced, right? So the next thing is really having their guard down, right? The best estimates that I've ever seen, it's almost as if a neighbor, your next door neighbor, is coming to your home and explaining what's going on, right? Like a friend or a neighbor is coming to your home and telling you what's going on, right? You're going to trust them, and more of an inclination to go with them. because the interaction is almost as if you just had a friendly neighbor or a fro come over and take a look. And some companies, they wear button ups, they have a clipboard, they have a nice decaled truck, come in, put on the covers on their shoes and come in, and that's fine. Some customers like it professional, but sometimes they have 3-5 of these guys come to their home, and deep down is they know it's a sales pitch. They know you're trying to sell something. So what happens when you have 3 guys in collared shirts coming to your home, and you have one guy who is able to communicate everything as well, comes from a very reputable company, but the interaction doesn't feel like they're selling you something, is they're just showing you what's going on in your home and giving you the best option to solve it. At the end of the day, if you're a homeowner, that's exactly what you want. Most homeowners don't want a bunch of sales guys into their home, a bunch of clipboards, trying to make you, sign a deal on the spot, right? So most of the time is being the underdog and letting their guard down, and coming from a more trustworthy standpoint. Here are a couple of things that I've seen contractors do that really help this out. Is some comfort advisors I've met, they swear by never parking in, avoid parking in the driveway. They just park unassumingly on the side of their home. Don't want to disrupt everything. Park in the driveway, right? Always does that. Next thing is go inside, obviously introducing yourself, what you're here for, and just getting to know the customer in their home, what you're working with. Compliment them, what's going on. Sometimes it's like, the customer's like, I'm sorry about a mess in my home, and then you crack jokes, wait till you wait till you see my home, right? And you compliment them, hold them, get at ease, right? Don't go just dive straight into it. Kind of warm things up, and before you go into the equipment and price, make sure that the homeowner understands everything on what's going on with their unit. Explain it with analogies. Help them understand what's going on before we even dive deep into equipment and price. Because if that logical flow isn't there and they don't understand what's going on in their home and you start presenting equipment and price, it's going to go way over the head. And it's going to leave them more confused than trusting in what's going on. And then, some behaviors are, if we're going to make an important decision, if we want to go over pricing equipment, is sit down at the dining table with the customer, right, where they can, look at everything with their full attention, and then go over the equipment and price. If you need to, maybe just the wife is there, FaceTime the husband, get the husband on the phone to go over everything, right? Wife is able to see paper contract, paper estimate, see everything, and we're able to communicate with the husband over the phone over everything that's going on, right? So sit at the dining table, when you go over the price, put yourself in a position to where everyone has the full attention to go over the most important part, which is the equipment and the price. Okay. And next part is discounts. You're always going to have to give discounts at some point, but we want to give discounts with intention, right? Right. When you're going over the estimate, when you're writing everything there, you should always explain the applicable rebates or discounts before you give them the final price, right? So what some of the business owners and advisors that I've worked with is mention, hey, based on where you're going on, you're wanting to convert to a heat pump, there is a $2,000 federal tax rebate that's available to you, right? If you want to do it before the end of this year or before X amount of time, right? That's applicable to you based on what you're doing. And they're like, oh, great, right? So it's like, just make sure you know that, but we want to make haste to make sure that you get these rebates for the discounts, and then you go into the pricing, right? Or maybe there's a manufacturer rebate. So go over all the applicable rebates and discount before you go over the rest of your pitch, right? The final price. So that, maybe you go over the price and they're like, oh, can you give me a discount? And you can just say, hey, remember the rebate that I talked to you about? Here, based on this price I'm giving you, it already applies the discounts that's applicable to your home, right? So all discounts are already included. By giving you all these discounts ahead of time, help you understand the situation. Does that make sense, right? Like, do you feel like I'm giving you the best options based on everything? Or obviously they're going to say yes because you already talked about the discounts up front. Never give a discount without giving a reason, right? Because the moment you give a discount without a reason, they're like, oh, come on, just give me $500 off. You give them a discount just for the sake of giving them a discount because they asked for it. What's stopping them for asking you for another one, right? If you only give discounts for a reason, manufacturer rebate that applies to you, right? Or federal tax rebate that applies to you, or seasonal deal that we're having. Then there's a reason for every single discount that you give them. And then if you're going to give the final discount, which is the final say from the business owner or someone else at the company, then that's where you would call in, hey, this is so-and-so situation. Can we give them another discount, right? Final approval on additional discounts. You don't want to give discounts without a good reason, or else they're going to just keep shopping you down, and they're not going to believe in you because they're going to be like, why didn't you give me that price in the beginning, right? They're going to lose that trust. So always give price with a reason, or give a discount for a reason. And so last part, of course, I'm sure everyone knows this there are steps to build trust, right? They need to understand, show expertise on the equipment, right? Do some very hands-on things, right? If you're testing the airflow through their vents, grab a tissue, throw it up there, have them run the air conditioning, throw it onto the vent, see if it sticks, right? Make it interactive, right? Show them what's wrong, what's going on, right? Make it an interactive thing instead of just telling, hey, this is what's happening. They don't see it. Go through everything, get the ladder, crawl up there, take a look at everything, right? Be interactive and, building that trust. Show them everything, right? Build trust, share your reviews, right? Reviews, a business card, any material from your company, photos, whatever, consumer reports about the brands that you carry, and show that, hey, this is the equipment that we're putting in, and this is the best equipment because this is what these sources on consumer reports say, right? And, once you've done all these things, you build trust, right? Before you present the price, you tell them all the discounts, right? Their guard is down. They trust you. You're almost like a neighbor going to their home, right? You explain all technical concepts with just simple analogies so they understand what's going on in their home. They could tell their little kid and tell their grandma, and everyone's going to be on the same page without diving into deep technical concepts. And then when you give them the price, it's very self-explanatory, easy monthly payments, low interest. They understand everything. There's no reason for them to not go with you, right? But if any of these things is missing from your pitch, it's really going to be hard to close the sale, right? Because number one, if the price presentation is good, why would they trust you in paying for everything? They don't trust you in giving them your credit card or cash, right? If they don't understand what's going on in their home, someone's going to give them a better understanding, right? If you can't convey things in the right way, someone's going to give them a better understanding and going to build that trust, right? If you just come in, they just don't trust you because it seems like you're trying to sell them a unit, you just don't let the guard down, you're not going to get the job, right? If you if they want discounts and you don't have to give them a reason for a discount, they're going to lose trust. Everything might be really good up until the point where we get to the price, and then they're like, why didn't you give me that price in the beginning, right? And you didn't give me reason for the discount. They're gonna lose trust with you at the very end, right? So all 5 of these things need to be very important in order for you to close the sale. So I hope some of these things are something that you can take away to implement in your next in-home estimate and drastically improve your close rate by at least 20-30%. And we also have a database of in-home estimates that I've personally recorded from the company advisors and salespeople and business owners that I've worked with. If you want access to that database, comment below, and I'll send it over.